Thomas here with Much Props, going to give you another how-to video. Today I am finishing the work of another artist. Now you've seen me do this from time to time, and it usually is circled around the same person most times, which is Jose Madera, aka PR Props. Now he has tons of socials, which I'll link on the description below, as well as a YouTube channel that he's recently started uploading stuff to, which I'm super excited about. And I just love his work. In my build room, which you are currently in behind you, there are only a handful of masks and helmets and props in this room, all of which pretty much are PR props. I draw inspiration from them. I like to modify them, which they don't necessarily need, but his work is amazing. I would highly, highly recommend you visit this website. He has stuff for sale that you can purchase, and I promise you, you will not be disappointed in the craftsmanship that goes into everything that he does. So I saw a post, I think about 2 years ago, of a mouse sculpture that he did. Kind of a mascot head, not Mickey Mouse or Chuck E. Cheese, but something in that realm. And I wanted it. So I went onto his website and I looked at his socials, and it was a commission work, which typically means it's not for sale. So I was kind of bummed about it, but it is what it is. Fast forward 2 years later, and it went up on his website, so I bought it. Today I am going to finish a mouse mascot head, put my own little spin on it, kind of throw in some nostalgia there for those of you who are in the 80s and 90s era of cartoon watching, and we are going to make an epic mouse head. Let's get to building. So this is the mascot head that I purchased from Jose, aka PR Props, last week. He was selling it because the person who commissioned it lost touch with him, and he was just sitting on the build partially finished. Jose spends a lot of time sculpting out most of his builds, and this one was no exception. Herein lies the problem with commission work, and a major reason why a lot of us makers are hesitant to work on demand. I have had similar problems with people, and it is why I stay away from commission work for the most part. You may end up with people who abandon your projects. This is a resin cast from Jose Sculpt, and it currently has Bondo all over it to get it smooth as possible. I need to trim back a portion of the helmet because my head is ginormous. So I make a mark, put a cutting wheel on my rotary tool, and cut the line. Make sure to wear a respirator and a face shield because the dust goes everywhere and that wheel can explode. Typically when they do, shards fly everywhere at your face. I've had it happen, and thankfully I had eye protection. I need to round over the edge with a sanding drum on my rotary tool to smooth over the sharp edges. Currently, I do not have a full game plan in mind as to what I want it to look like, so there will be a lot of things that should be cut, drilled, or modified before primer paint goes down, but when you're flying by the seat of your pants and just freestyle decision making as you go, you have to backtrack here and there. While I don't always work in this manner, I thought it would be nice to show on the video that you can modify stuff after the fact. There is something freeing about not having everything planned out. The pupils on the eyes protrude out a little, and my initial plan was to paint on some eyes looking in different directions, so I smoothed out those parts also. All that dust that is accumulated from sanding the resin casting gets saved while I am shaping out my modifications. Why, you might ask? Mixed with super glue, it makes for a perfect gap filler. In my high school summer job times working for my uncle's cabinet shop, we would do a similar thing while building cabinets, except the sawdust would be mixed with wood glue instead. The material is a match and it eliminates some of the waste that would just be swept away. The casting at the pupils was thin on the backside in this area as it's a slush cast, so I need to tape the front of the eye area and backfill the dust super glue mix. You have to work fast as it sets up super fast. Careful to not touch the mix as it does create a exothermic reaction, meaning the material heats up drastically as it cures and it could burn you. You may actually see smoke come from it as it sets. I use my hobby knife to mix it and then pack the mix into place. Then I just sand it smooth. I did a base layer of black spray paint and dusted it with silver and brown to give an aged metal look. So like I said in the previous clip, I am making mods on the fly. If I planned out, I would have drilled all these holes before I painted it, but I did not. And I have to be extra careful to not scratch up too much of the paint as I drill the rest. I decided that the mascot would kind of have this cyberpunk vibe to it, so I wanted to add some piercings in the ears, eyelids, and maybe add some spike studs for the whisker holes. I tested out hole sizes on the offcuts from the back and found the size I needed to push these round carabiner key rings through to mimic hoop earrings. I wasn't intending to make it look like the early 90s cartoon biker mice from Mars, but that is the direction it took, minus the Martian antennas. I drilled some holes into the resin, wipe up the dust, and move on to the next random modification decision. Some of you have seen me use this masking technique before, but for those of you who haven't, I will explain why I am making him minty fresh. The toothpaste acts as a masking agent for the next layer of spray paint. You can also definitely go buy some latex masking products from the store, but I find that toothpaste is a nice, cheaper alternative, and it leaves your prop smelling minty fresh. Just slather it on top in spots, and paint won't stick to those areas. Once I'm satisfied with the random splotches, I spray paint the head with a mix of random blues, greens, and browns to dinge up the paint job of the top coat. Here comes the fun part. Wiping off the toothpaste to reveal the cool chipped paint effects underneath. I start with a wet paper towel and eventually bring out the big guns, a cheap vibrating toothbrush from the dollar store. It helps to knock off the film over the toothpaste. Every time I make a video like this, I have a little talk somewhere in there about supporting artists. I buy stuff from artists like Jose, 1000, Jazza, Evil Ted, books by Bill Duran, and Kamiya Cosplay because I love what they do. Making Making content comes at a price, and every little bit helps to keep us funded in the materials to do what we love. Money isn't the only way that you can show support. Share your favorite artists' work on socials, like their videos or their posts, and leave positive comments for them. These free acts of kindness can refuel their drive to continue doing what they love to do. I drilled another hole. After looking at the paint chips, I thought it would be cool to make the exposed area reveal like a laser reticled retina or something. I pulled a greebly casting from an Evil Ted mold that I keep stockpiled, and I'm going to use that as my laser eye. I wired up a battery pack to small LED lights and will use that as my light source. I carefully carved out the middle of the eye and hogged out the back side of it so that I could hot glue a glass pebble into it. I hot glue the light to the back of that assembly, paint it gold, and hot glue the whole thing into the inside of the head. I also globbed on some hot glue to the battery pack to the inside of the left cheek to keep it in place, while keeping in mind how the battery pack opens up to replace the batteries. The eyes, mouth, and nose get base layers in acrylic paint by hand. You could mask them off with tape and spray paint or airbrush these details on, but I liked the contrast and texture. It can be a bit tedious, but I enjoy putting on a show or some music in the background and just kind of vibing out for a few hours. I ended up painting a gold tooth opposite of the missing one, bloodshot the one good eye, and used a lighter silver metallic on the robot eye. My guy is starting to take shape now, but with the chipped paint job and the crazy stuff he's seen, it's way too clean for my taste. I like to dirty up my builds and make them look lived in, so I watered down some brown and black acrylic paint and I'm going to weather up this clean, pristine paint job. The paint will sit on the surface and dry if left alone, or you could blot off parts of it as it starts to dry and have more control over the layering as you make multiple passes. This is usually what I do. Adding water to your paper towel will pull off more if you need to. Acetone can also pull back paint, but you want to be careful with it because it can eat all the way through to your casting. You can add weathering powders, oil washes, and a number of other techniques to aid your stuff. For me, I've always got decent results with simply using watered down acrylic and a paper towel. With the cyberpunk vibes that I wanted to lean towards, I found these decal stickers in a late night, should be asleep scouring of Amazon. I bought 2 packs of these stickers that have all kinds of cool shapes and text in them with what my phone translator thinks is a mix of Japanese, Chinese, Indonesian, and a few other languages. I'm sure I am putting absolute nonsense words onto the helmet, but they're stylized, so I don't really care. Much like that 90s tattoo artist who knows nothing about Japanese kanjis and permanently tattoos the word poop or sandwich onto an unsuspecting client's skin. At least it looks cool, right? I peel off the backing and use the transfer film to place them in spots for added interest. To breathe a little bit of life into his good eye, I'm going to use some UV resin on the surface. This will also help to lock in the vinyl decal into place, so 2 for 1. I spread it across the surface with a plastic toothpick and hit the UV with the UV light to lock it into place. Now, you may be asking, why don't you just use the UV resin to do the radioactive drool also? I would answer with, I did a test run. Mixing paint, mica powder, and alcohol inks with this UV resin. The paint blocks out the UV so it doesn't fully cure underneath, and I didn't like the color effects of the mica powder. The alcohol inks never really set up properly, so I have used this 5-minute epoxy all the time for blood effects and know that it's going to work. I mix up the 2 parts, add a little bit of orange and yellow paint, then drip it from the bottom lip. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did making it. Thanks again to PR Props for making such amazing stuff. You are truly an inspiration, my friend. Please, 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 please go to his website, socials, and show him some love. Share his work, and if you can, buy some of his stuff. You will not be disappointed. And we are finished. Here is the end result. Overall, I think it turned out awesome. It is definitely something that will be in my favorites of Jose casts. I love it. It is super awesome. Definitely gives me that old cartoon nostalgia vibe. If you know the cartoon that I'm referring to, then you know where I'm coming from. But yeah, Maybe you will try and make something like this yourself, or find some other artist and just customize what they've already started with and make it your own. For sure. Maybe you'll get some,
Yay!
and inevitably they're gonna ask you, how'd you make that? You can give them one of these. Tell them, much props. This is so cool. And it fits my ginormous head, which is a bonus. So, peace out. If you enjoy what I do here on YouTube and you want to see more builds like this one, please consider joining these awesome people listed here with me over on my Patreon to build a bigger, better, more creative community together.